I have a thing with seeing someone take a picture with a producer as a marketing thing. I'm not into it, to be honest. I think that if we just focus on the producer and their coffee, we don't have to insert ourselves in there. We should really fade to the background, right? Because all we're doing is distorting the story in the coffee. We need to get out of the way if we're really going to tell a story. With Bellwether, I'm always telling them, like, I don't want a picture. With the producer, I want to spend time with them. That's what's most important to me.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Equal Parts Coffee Podcast, episode 38.
Yeah, and we've got a special guest joining us today from Bellwether Coffee, Gabe, and I want to make sure I'm pronouncing this right. Is it Boscana?
Boscana.
Boscana. All right, perfect. Well, yeah, why don't you introduce yourself and let our viewers know a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. So my name is Gabe Boscana. I have been in specialty coffee. This is my 26th year. Started as a barista at Gimme Coffee in upstate New York, and slowly but surely worked my way up to a green buyer. Let's see. I've worked in some places. I was the first employee at Ritual Coffee Roasters in San Francisco, the first official employee. Learned the basics of roasting on a 1919 Probot, the oldest machine out of factory that still worked, and it was owned by Stumptown's founder Dwayne Sorensen. So I learned the very basics of roasting with Stumptown. We were the first account out of the state of Oregon at the time. They didn't do out-of-state accounts back then, wholesale accounts. Then worked for Intelligentsia as the national roasting manager. So I managed all the roasteries and the roasters, the people who roasted the coffee. And then I also bought coffee with Intelligentsia. That's where I learned most of my buying skills was from Jeff Watts, formerly of Intelligentsia. I think he now works in Colombia. And then slowly moved into full-time green buying with Sightglass Coffee out of San Francisco. And then ended up working for Ricardo at Bellwether Coffee as a consultant at first. And this is my 12th year with Bellwether. I was also the first original employee at Bellwether.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I've pretty much done everything. I've competed in barista competitions. I've done pretty much every job.
That's awesome.
in coffee. So for now I do... For Bellwether, I just curate the coffee menu, and really my job is it's the best job. All I do is taste coffee and say yes or no, and then figure out how to, communicate with the producers. That really is my main job, it was a dream job for me to just focus on green coffee.
I love the specialty coffee in that there is so many different roles that one person can do or fill. And sometimes that can be a curse. There's so many things to do. So then owners of cafes or operators can end up wearing a lot of hats all at once.
Yeah.
But there is fun in that because then you can kind of explore and figure out what path is right for you. And on that note, what about green coffee? Because obviously you've done a whole lot of different things here in the industry. So what about green coffee drew you in to make you want to pursue that long term?
Well, I can't believe I skipped this, but I also, I recently closed my own roasting business, really because I really wanted to dedicate two factors, and I'll get into the green coffee part. One is I had some health stuff go on, and I really couldn't be in it, and I thought if I was going to own my own roastery, I really wanted to do everything and get in there, and I just couldn't do it. So Máquina was my roasting business. I did that for 9 years. I did that concurrently with Bellwether, so I was working a lot. I was buying coffee for two very different companies, which is sort of fun because I got a chance to buy just different profiles for different purposes, and we'll get into that later. But green coffee, the reason I really got into it, because I was really into being a barista for a long time. I never thought I would be a roaster. And sort of the more I learned being a barista, the more I learned about the coffee, the more I wanted to really get into that aspect of it, and less of the customer facing, field. And green coffee I knew would get me closer to the people. And that's ultimately what kept me in green coffee. It was not necessarily the seed, but more the relationships with the producers and also their relationship to the land, their relationship to their country, their relationship to their families, and their agricultural traditions in most parts. They're typically multi-generational relationships with the land, and that's really what's kept me into green coffee is being able to keep those relationships going
That's
more
incredible.
than anything else. Yeah,
And like, I mean, coffee is really is just a vehicle for people and community. So like,
absolutely.
you know, being whatever part of the industry it is, the most important parts are people, so like whether if you're a barista face to face with customers each day, or you're a green
Yeah.
coffee buyer, you're meeting with importers, you're learning about their story, and then from there
Yes.
everyone along the chain can share from people, from their stories to other people,
Yeah.
the consumers, the stories from the farmers, which is something I've always enjoyed, being a part of the long line of just amazing people that bring the coffee to your cup. As amazing as coffee is, it's really about the people. That's a lot. I mean,
Absolutely.
most of us, why we're in this industry in the first place, is to be able to serve and love people with, something that tastes amazing at the same time.
100%. Yeah, it's the act of service, right? And also the service of telling a story that would otherwise go untold.
Yes.
Because most of the people we buy from are people that just don't have, typically, and on the global scale, they don't have a voice a lot of times with the smaller producers, and you're this sort of steward to their stories. And so it's a very, very humbling job. If you're willing to be humbled, and that's for me, that's the most exciting part about it, really.
So what about coffee in the first place made you like fall in love with it? Or was there a moment in time where you realized that specialty coffee was something you wanted to do long term?
Ooh, I don't know if it's a moment. I think it was a series of moments. I started at Gimme Coffee a long, long time ago. So like 2000, 2001, when like specialty coffee just wasn't really a thing quite yet. Um, And it was this older gentleman, John Gant was his name, and they used to roast on a Civets roaster, which is a fluid air roaster, which is a really weird way to roast coffee, in my opinion. It was interesting, but also like very strange.
Yep.
And the whole point of that machine was to puff up the beans, so the bag looked bigger, and people thought they were getting their money's worth. But it's like you're still getting a pound; it's just bigger. um, it was a very weird concept at the time, but I remember sitting in his roastery and listening. He was at the time he was in his 60s already by then, and he told the story of coffee, and I had no idea. I was putting like tons of cream and sugar. I'm Puerto Rican, so that's how we drink our coffee in Puerto Rico at the time. And I just had no idea about the cultural aspect of it. I didn't know the labor of coffee. I didn't know any of those things. And that kind of was the first moment that I was like, oh, this is interesting. Uh, Mostly people of color, lots of exploitation. So sociocultural, socioeconomic issues there that I found very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first. The second hook was, oh, this is how you prepare it. It's not just instant where you throw it in a cup. There's an entire chain that has to work in order for us to get this product. That was the second hook. The third hook was really when in San Francisco, really thinking about where the coffee came from, and thinking about the concept of direct trade. That was sort of the third hook. And then really the fourth was finally being able to go to origin. My first trip was to Huehuetenango in Guatemala. I don't know, it was a very long time ago. And when I saw the families and the communities and the actual coffee shrubs in person and tasted the fruit for the first time, I mean, that was it. Like I was like, oh, I'm probably going to be doing this for the rest of my life. Didn't plan on it at all. So there were several moments that sort of led me here. But really it was the connection to people and culture and something that I thought was much bigger and in a lot of ways seemed more important than my own life. That
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that just so many, like I remember when I didn't know that much about coffee, but like most coffee consumers don't even know it's a fruit. They have no concept of the supply chain.
Yeah, a seed of a tropical fruit. Come on.
Yeah, and
yeah,
it's such a sweet, cool place to be in, to be able to like show people the way that the way they purchase, who they purchase through, like quality coffees, like how that impacts very directly around the globe and specific people and families. I think if more people knew that, they'd be more willing to pay more for their coffee.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
very
we're all
cool.
connected, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And more like surprised by how cheap you can buy coffee at the grocery store or the gas station or whatever. It still astounds me to this day that you can get the cups for this cheap, because I know these companies aren't, subsidizing their
Oh,
costs.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. Talk about just like seething anger, just like waiting. Like when you
yeah.
realize, when you realize the amount of effort that it takes, and then that people still complain that it's coffee's too expensive. You know,
Yes. I
Yeah.
mean, coffee is one of those, like, specialty coffee, I suppose, is one of those amazing things that's like this affordable luxury that we can have, where it's like, great coffee that is sourced sustainably can be expensive, but it's not something that is going to, at least for the most part, exclude people from being able to enjoy it. Because you can go to a coffee shop and get
right?
the most expensive cup of coffee in the world for like, $20. Very expensive for a
Right.
cup of coffee, but that's not
Sure.
out of people's reach.
Yeah, it's not
I
like
think it's pretty
wine,
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. It's not like wine. I was thinking also just, if thinking about affordability, which we should, especially in these days. If you broke down the cost of like a 12-ounce bag of coffee or 1 pound bag of coffee, and you really thought about how you brew it, it really is affordable. Obviously depending on the coffee, but even like a $20 bag of a 12-ounce cup of coffee, when you break down the cost of you making it at home, much more affordable. Not to take away obviously from the barista and the shops, but I think if you really wanted to make the commitment to buy good coffee and support good companies, then really buying a bag of coffee is gonna help you get there, so that
Yes.
it's not so much of an unaffordable luxury. You know,
And the coffee's going to taste 100 times better. So,
100%. Yeah.
I'm curious, kind of while we're on this like green coffee and connecting with people and stuff, because I do think like so many people really just need to like hear the way like humanize the coffee industry. And so I'm curious if you have any like maybe specific experiences or fond memories of the way that you were able to really like see the impact that helping farmers sell their coffees at a fair price like really had on them, because I'd love to hear about that.
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I think identifying a good relationship first, as a green coffee buyer. Once you get to know the person, you see them in their home. You're seeing them in their most vulnerable state. That they're basically showing you their life. They're like, here's my house, here are my kids. This is land I've been farming for 2 3 generations. This is all I know. I mean, they're really, to a total stranger, they're basically opening up their home. In the US, we don't do that. We're like, we need to text first or call me first. Like, I'm not just going to open my door, right? But on their end, they're not doing that. They're seeing an opportunity there, and so they seem to be much more open, or they have been, at least in my experiences. And I think one of the most direct experiences I had was, getting to know a young producer and selling, with Máquina, selling his coffee and being able to tell his story and being able to share photos and actually telling truly customers one by one via email, you should try this coffee. I've met this person. I've been on their farm. This is what their life is like. Really honing in on the reality of the situation, reality of what it is to be a coffee producer. What I call kind of a mini miracle it is that we can drink these coffees year to year, considering the path that they have to take. And kind of like to what you said earlier, once people really hear you and they know it's a genuine story, they know it's not coming from a place of like, I'm trying to make as much money as possible, I'm trying to move volumes of coffee. Once the story is told of, this is why I do this is who I met, this is who this person is, this is what they do for a living day in and day out every year. It's hard labor. Um, People tend to, I remember being able to sell so much more of that coffee because I took the time to really dive in and tell the story of this young man. I mean, he was 28 at the time, um, in Honduras. And people were much more likely to ask I wasn't, I did it for 9 years with this producer. And so with Máquina, I could see every year I would sell more and more and more, and people would ask for it more and more. They say, when is this coffee coming back in?
Mm-hmm.
Because they felt a connection to that person. And they felt that it was genuine and it wasn't just a gimmick, marketing gimmick. So I think, to your point, telling the story, showing photographs in a way that isn't exploitative, right? In a way that isn't, I have a thing with seeing someone take a picture with a producer as a marketing thing. I'm not into it, to be honest. I think that if we just focus on the producer and their coffee, we don't have to insert ourselves in there. We should really fade to the background, right? Because all we're doing is sort of stewarding the story in the coffee. We need to get out of the way if we're really going to tell a story. So I really, with Bellwether, I'm always telling them, like, I don't want, I'm not going to curse, but it's like, I don't want a picture with a producer. I want to spend time with them. That's what's most important to me. If I'm constantly like, hey, take a picture, here's a brown person next to me, yay, their coffee's awesome. It doesn't do much for me. So at Bellwether, I always tell them with marketing, it's like, don't, you can put a picture of me if you need to, just myself. But if when we're talking about producers, like, really focus on them, on their craft and what they're doing and their work and their labor more than anything.
Absolutely.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard like people on the roastery side, customer facing here in the US, of kind of like at least lately, kind of like a mixed, trying to figure out what to do, whether or not to completely step out of the way of the producer or telling that story. But also there's something to be said about not just like, stepping out of the way and letting the coffee do the work, but also, you as a barista or a roaster can come alongside that and take a part in that journey, because largely that's what the consumer is going to see, the roasting side. That's how the system works.
Yeah.
But I've seen some roasteries will kind of go as far as to, without naming names, but like rename the name of the coffee to something else that makes it more marketable, rather than, and I get it from a standpoint of, calling a coffee Guatemala Santa Sofia. It's not a word that people recognize, and it's kind of like, I don't know what that is. But if you put the word espresso blend on there, or if you just come up with some, party blend on there, you're able to maybe move more product, but not to tell the story as much.
That's a good one. That's a juicy bit you just said. So there's, because I see both sides, right? I think, my first language is Spanish. I was born in Puerto Rico, so that, like, the Spanish names are easy for me, obviously. Like, I don't think about it. It's like, sure, I remember, but in terms of, there's two aspects to that. One is, if you want to get out of the way and tell the story, then it's somewhere in your marketing, you should probably mention the actual name of the farm. However, I will tell you, because I asked producers, I would ask them this. It's like, well, how do you feel about when roasters change the name of they make a proprietary blend with your coffee, or they change it to something that's easy to remember? And truly, 100% of the time that I asked this question, their answer was, we actually don't care. We just want you to continue to buy the coffee.
Yeah.
If you continue to support us, you can name whatever you want. We're not going to be offended. So the in between that we've figured out is, if, for example, a farm is too difficult to say, or it's a weird name, or it doesn't jive, I will do everything to ask the producer themselves, hey, these are the names I'm thinking about, or what trees are around your farm, anything that's important to you, and I'll work with them, because we have done that. Because at the end of the day, right, if something is still relatively connected to the farm, easier to remember for the consumer, and it actually moves more volume, at the end of the day, that does help them, right? Yep. So it's an interesting line to walk, because things like, Rwanda Abanda Kundakawa, it doesn't really roll off the tongue for most people.
Yeah. I mean, for me, that's also like, that coffee sounds great, but not everybody's going to recognize
exactly
that.
Right.
Yep.
Well, we're like, no way, dude. So I think sort of paying homage to the actual name somewhere in your marketing, I think is honest and accurate. But I do get having to sort of rebrand some things so that it's something that people have an easier time looking for again, because again, ultimately is we want to continue to buy from this producer, if not the same amount, more and more every year. And that's really at the end of the day really supports what they're doing.
Yeah, and I guess from that, some advice roasters could take out of this is that, like, at the end of the day, the producer cares that you buy coffee from them. So if you market your coffee in such a way that
Yeah.
sells more, that's going to benefit everyone, right? But I do think in this industry, transparency is important as well. So, like, maybe market
Yes.
your coffee in such a way where it is marketable, it is people eye-catching, people want to buy it, but maybe have utilize your website to have that information available to people for those who want it. Not everybody cares
Who
to
want
learn
it
that
for
much,
those?
but a lot of people do.
I agree.
So I've been at Mundo's, my roastery. I've been getting into green coffee buying myself a little bit more. I've been head roaster for the last almost 10 years, and I've kind of shifted
Wow.
from that to now green coffee buying. And one of the things I really, really want to do that I haven't done yet, unfortunately, is visit Origin. We do
Oh
work
man, me.
with, yeah, we work with importers. You know, I get to see all the photos and the videos, but you know, it's not the same thing. Part of me is like, of course, I want to go there. I want to see the beautiful scenery in the farmers, in the farms, but I also want to like have more of a personal connection to these coffees that I'm buying. Because it's one thing to work, through an importer and kind of hear secondhand maybe the good that we're
Yeah.
doing by buying these coffees and how they're able to reinvest money back into their farms and for education in their community and all of those important parts. But that's one of the things on my list is to actually figure out or actually go to Origin and be a part
Oh, I would.
of that.
If anything, if I can help you do that, man, in any way at all, like please reach out. Like email me. Like I think it is absolutely necessary if you've roasted coffee and you've been doing it for that long.
Yes.
I think it'll be very informative for you to do it. Yeah.
And I mean, partially selfishly as well. I love photography, videography. So like just taking pictures of the beautiful landscape as well would be awesome. So part of that is that I'm always thinking about, curating a menu here for our own cafes and for our wholesale partners. So like you're obviously reviewing a lot of coffees. What are like
Yeah.
some, because it's very different to the way that we review coffees. We review coffees to the market that we have and our wholesale clients have, but you probably have a much, much more broad market of people
Yeah.
that you sell to through your marketplace. So what are some things that you look for in coffees or maybe some like,
Strategies
yeah,
for narrowing things down.
that was kind of a general question, but
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was hard at first, I will say, because I do my experience has been with very kind of high end, unique, small micro lot, 87 point plus coffees for most of my career in coffee. I've been very fortunate to work with great companies that was their focus. So this was different, and it was humbling because we really are catering to people that are just starting to roast or don't know anything about roasting. And that sort of broke my brain a little bit in the beginning, because I realized, oh, right, like it's easy to pick an 87 point coffee and sell it. It's delicious. It's very easy. It's actually much harder to find a coffee that's an 83 and 84, solid coffee, sweet, balanced, no defects, that is much more likely to entice the general population and sort of get them through the door of specialty coffee. Kenya's not the greatest introductory coffee. But Rwanda, they don't. It's hard to move those with people that don't know much about coffee. So we wanted to focus on, well, which coffees are the most palatable to most people. And really, it started with the basic four. Ethiopia, Guatemala, Colombia, Brazil. Those are coffees that you can blend with them. You can do house blends. You can do straight single origin. That's not intimidating or funky flavors, or pretty mild coffees. So that was sort of the first tier, is securing those kinds of coffees. And then in the last maybe 7 years, we've sort of moved. We've kept those, but we've moved more into this really specialty lots and micro lots. But really, our bread and butter really are those four coffees.
yes.
Coffees that we can buy a lot of, lots of volume. Coffees that will maintain their quality year round. Because the thing that I've learned, unlike my own company, Máquina, which I was constantly, it was all seasonal. Like really, it's like I wanted things out the door in 3 months. I was like, I don't want
Yes.
this coffee to be here in 3 months. I want it to be off the menu at its peak, right? Like
Mm.
I didn't want it to fade out
Yep.
and dry out and oh, it's like straw. I got to get it off the menu.
Mm-hmm.
With Bellwether, people really want consistency
Yes.
is what the number one request. Two is just versatility. Can this coffee be used as a single origin espresso? Can it be used as a filter? Can we do it dark? Can we do it for cold brew? So really versatility, consistency, and just an ease, right? Like coffees that you don't have to roast just so, no finicky coffees. And
Yes.
that was very different in my experience of buying coffee. So we really cater to the standards because most of our customers, their customers they're not like us. They're not the niche, the 5% of specialty coffee that are
Yes.
kind of nerds.
Yep.
They're really catering to people that are going to like big chains. They might be even, going to like a gas station to get coffee. Um, and that was a very um, again humbling experience, but also very informative of like, oh right, like if we want people that are buying these coffees that are not great, if you want to shift them over to better coffees, how do we do that? And the way to do it is to get just like a solid, sweet, kind of simple coffee, and then very slowly, once people get into the rhythm of just having better coffee, they almost inevitably find themselves finding better and better coffees on their journey.
Yes.
They don't recede. They don't go back. They usually go into
Yeah.
like, oh wow, I never thought I would like this Ethiopian natural. In fact, I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's something that's so important, and I feel like we've seen the industry getting better at it. I feel like there was a peak there where the industry wasn't very good at bringing people in, where it kind of felt
Yes.
Exclusive and
exclusive, and it's like, oh, you have no taste,
elitist.
like please leave. But now I think the industry's getting a lot better because that's
Yeah.
such an important bridge. Is like, yeah, you have this really developed taste because you've been tasting coffee for years and years, and you just love that
Right.
crazy, African coffee. But this random guy that comes in the door
Yeah.
is gonna just hate that. And so, like, how do you
Yes.
bring them in, show
Right.
them what good coffee is, but meet them where they're at, and help them learn in a way that's not like rude. And so that's an important bridge, and it's tricky to do,
yeah.
but
And
it is so important.
That's something we've
It
had
is
to
tricky to do.
That's something we've had to do more and more in the roastery because when we opened first, we started roasting coffee back in 2016. It was really just like what we wanted to serve, so coffees that we liked,
Yes.
coffees that we enjoyed. So Ethiopians, Kenyans.
Well, from the get go too, they were loving the Rwandas and the Kenyas. Like that's
Yeah.
what
Right.
their family
Yeah.
they love those. So
yeah.
Yeah.
the ones you listed.
And then, as we are expanding cafes, we have 3 cafes now, but still, that was very much like we could decide what we want to serve. And, people had gotten used to that Mundo's is this cafe. They have these coffees. And it was a draw for that. But as we start to expand more on the wholesale side, other cafes that are serving different markets that want their own say with what they have, we found that like it is very essential to have those staple or core coffees that are consistent year round, whether it be a blend or a single origin coffee that is able to be consistent for longer amounts of time. Just because, not everyone is going to be the specialty cafe that you can get a experimental
Exactly.
process pour over from, but you want just a regular old cup of Joe that is going to be better than the gas station for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like we've in a way like you mentioned, Nick, like we sort of peaked in this like very snooty. I mean, especially like I remember Stumptown when they were still newish and just it was awful. Just like the attitude and just the exclusivity of the breed. It was terrible. I mean, I used to work for them, so I can say that. But we've gone through this sort of like, oh, but what I do is important, right? As a barista, I'm important. It's actually me. I hold all the information. I hold all the knowledge, and I'm going to teach you. I'm going to teach you how to do things correctly. I'm going to tell you how to drink it. I'm going to tell you all these things. It wasn't connective at all. It was really more about the ego.
Yeah.
And I hope, thankfully, we've sort of moved away from that into like people are more into blends. You see a lot more blends on menus now, which is great. And also like more developed roasting. with coffees that maybe in the past would have been very light, it's, we're willing to push them a little further because they're more palatable to people. Because at the end of the day, like, you have to stay in business and you want to buy more coffee. And so how do you do that without sacrificing quality? And it's, again, it goes back to green coffee. The quality has to be there in the beginning. You can't coax a good coffee out of a bad green coffee. You just can't. It's
Yeah.
impossible, right? And so going back to, like you mentioned, coffees that are just more consistent and delicious, nothing wrong with that. And I've definitely been humbled because there was a time where I was like super anti-naturals. I was like, nope, I don't like naturals. They're dirty. I don't want to taste compost in my coffee. Where now, because that's a lot of people want very, very fruit forward coffees, which
Yep.
is another trend I've noticed, with co-fermentation and anaerobics and stuff. I'm will always be a student. It's important to retain an open mind, no matter how much you think you know, because I learn something new every day. I'm much more willing to give a natural a try and to learn from other people. And I think once you open yourself up, and if people come to you as a leader or some sort of mentor, and they see that you're open, you're just giving them permission to be more open too.
Yeah.
So I think really meeting people where they're at with humility and understanding that the main goal is connection, not domination or exploitation, I think will make us better. And I think actually will help us sell more coffee, which is sort of the point.
Yeah. I mean, and we've seen the fruit of that in our own cafes of like over the last year and a half. We've been focusing even harder on hospitality because, I mean, that's becoming increasingly more. I mean, it's always needed. You always need to love people, but it's to stay in business, it's even more important than it is ever with the rise of home brewing, people being able to make good or even better coffee at home. That's the reason for people to come out to your coffee shop. But we've seen the fruit of that, like on the customer side, being open with people and kind of instead of being the dispenser of knowledge, you are the one kind of inviting people into the journey of coffee, and they get to take part in that, whether it's buying beans for their own home setup or enjoying coffee in your shop.
Yeah, it's almost like you want to open it up so they have an experience with you, right?
Yes.
Because I think experiences is what stays with people, not things,
Yes.
not products, the experience of it. So if as a barista or a roaster, you can really make someone feel welcome, that's what they're going to remember probably more than the coffee. And I also think that, food and coffee is love. And so if you're inviting somebody in you're opening up a pleasant experience, that coffee is going to taste better. It just is. We are emotional beings. So I think that hospitality is incredibly important,
Yes.
especially in what I think a lot of people feel very, what's the word? They feel intimidated, right? By going into a specific coffee shop. And if somebody just kind of smiles at you and, there's no judgment, I'm in.
Yes.
Yeah, everything's cool. Like people wearing skinny jeans and have tattoos, and it's like I don't know what I'm doing in here. Yeah, it's intimidating, but it shouldn't be because I do think like that cafe experience should reflect the relational aspect of coffee as a whole, right? Like if you've got this like close relationship with farmers and close relationships with your importers or like and all of these people, like the coffee community is very very tightly knit and relational, and then you just like you're cold on the cafe end of it.
Yeah.
That just doesn't work. It doesn't reflect the truth actually of like what the industry is like.
Yeah.
It's very important.
You wonder also. I remember a long time ago when I worked for Intelligentsia, we had this. I forgot what it was called, but it was a workshop where every year Intelligentsia would host a bunch of their producers. They would fly them in. I think it was called Extraordinary Coffee Workshop. I don't know if they do it anymore, but every year they would meet in a specific city in the U.S. and they would invite most of the producers to come in and a lot of the baristas, and we would just have these workshops and talk to each other. But I remember thinking, if we could approach the cafes where if the producers that we work with were to come in, they came in for a cup of coffee, how would they feel, right? If they're feeling like crap, because they're feeling intimidated, they're feeling like they don't belong, then what are we doing? Because they're the producers, right? So what if my mom came in? What if my grandfather, if your family came in, how would they feel? And if the answer is like, well, they wouldn't feel great, or they would feel like they needed to walk out, then you got to switch something up there, you know?
Yes.
That's a good test. That's a
No,
good way to
that
think
is,
about it.
yeah.
Yeah. Because I feel like, I got some of my grandparents would feel comfortable, and then some would not. You know, you got to mix. It depends. So I guess we're talking about right, this customer side of things, and one of the more challenging things has been in the last couple of years just that increase in cost, like for a number of reasons, right? Green coffee, you know, with tariffs and just a number of different things has like totally changing cost, right? You've got increased like labor costs all over. So on the green side of things, looking at costs just for farmers, for sea market, you're not necessarily directly communicating to cafe customers anymore. Right. So what would you want to communicate to them about like why it's worthwhile for them to pay, $8, $9 for a pour over now instead?
Right. I mean, I think it's, well, I probably wouldn't approach it as directly as, oh, this $9 cup of coffee is worth it to you, because I think that then at that point you're not meeting them halfway, right? You're not asking questions. Well, what could you afford? What is your daily? I think it needs a little bit of a deeper conversation than that. I do think that we owe it to the customer if they're asking, why is it so expensive? I think we owe it to them to be very transparent. Like, well, we don't actually set the price of green coffee. It's such a, it is a very, very complicated answer. It's not straightforward. And I say that because I think, you mentioned labor costs. I think that the problem isn't just the sea market. It isn't just the cost of production. It isn't just wars in different places that affect or epidemics that affect the price of oil, that affect the price of freight, that affect the price of fertilizers. Like, all those things matter. Every one of those things matter, right? On our end, as consumers, the thing that we don't talk about is like, well, our entire system is screwed because people should be earning more anyway. So you can't fix something that is so deeply broken by fixing one tiny bit of it. Like, oh, well, we'll just make the coffee cheaper. Well, the cost of living in general is more expensive. It's awful, right? And so if people haven't seen wages increase in 30 years, I don't know how you square that circle. I think it's a much broader, bigger issue of the cost of living for us. Like, we should be just making more, and so that coffee doesn't seem as expensive. So coffee isn't expensive. Our wages are too low. That's always what I've thought. It's like, well, we're actually not making enough. I think that the profits are not going to the right places. And so it's going to seem like coffee is getting more and more expensive when in fact, the sea market going up to like $4, that's what it should have been. Because if you take the cost of production in play, then that's what is needed, right? Like, for many years, producers were losing money. If the sea market's at 190, they're not making money. They're just not. They're, maybe if they're lucky, they're breaking even. So in terms of what you tell customers, I think it's a much broader conversation of, here's how the system is set up, here's how it works, here's our part in it, and here's what we do to mitigate that so that we make it as affordable for you while we are able to remain in business. Because like you said, we have to pay our labor. We have to pay our baristas well. We want to offer them healthcare. It's a very, very broad thing. And I think that we've trained people to just look at the sticker price and not think about, well, what goes into that? Am I being exploited? Are they charging too much? And for coffee, unfortunately, we have not done a great job. Not as good as wine or even beer. We have not done a good job really explaining what goes into it and why things cost what they cost. And the fact that we're sort of, in a way, being held hostage by the sea market in a lot of ways. So to a customer, I think that the best we can do is say, look, we will have a $9 cup of coffee because that's, we paid this. The quality is here. We pay our baristas this. This covers our labor. But we will also make sure that we have a $4 or $5 cup of coffee. And that's where we're at. And either people can say, okay, well, support your business and what you're doing, and I'll do what I can to pay for that, or they won't, and they'll say, I'd rather go to the gas station where I'm paying $2.50 for a terrible coffee with no transparency.
Yes.
I'm giving that to a corporation. It's just a very nuanced answer. I don't know how to condense that, but I think most people would agree that the bigger issue is not that the coffee is expensive, is that our labor is too cheap, and that we're actually not making enough money to be able to consume the things that we need to consume at the right prices, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
One good answer.
Maybe the condensed answer is to tell them to get a better job.
Oh my god!
It's like, maybe you should find a better paying job so you can afford it.
Should just pay people more money for labor. You can't. If you're busting your butt, behind the bar, and you're making, I don't know, if the cost of living in San Francisco is at least $85,000 a year, and you're a barista and you're making 55, what the fuck do you do? Like, what do you do? That was my experience. Of living in a very, very expensive city, not making a lot of money. I loved my job, but it was a struggle to make ends meet as a barista. That really shouldn't be the case for anyone working 4 hours a week.
I think where those pinch points are too, and I think this can help the consumer. The pinch points are the farmers and the baristas, right? Like, those are the people that are squeezed the most, I think, in that. And so I think that those are so easy to make personable, right? Like we were talking about with the farmers, right? Like, connect them with the farmers, get them to care about the farmers. And it's easy, like in a cafe where they know people, it's easy to get them to care about the baristas too. So it's all down to that relational thing more than the quality of the coffee.
Yeah. I guess, the best we can really do for people is, as always, provide transparency of, like, this is our breakdown. This is why things are so expensive, and kind of, like we said earlier, like, humanizing the coffee supply chain. That, for one, you're able to enjoy your coffee more, knowing where it came from. But also one, I guess, benefit of, like, the crazy C market, not that was great. Anyway, but one benefit of it was the price of standard grocery store coffee had went up, and that I feel like the gap between specialty and traditional coffee had gotten smaller. So it made it an easier choice for people who are looking to upgrade their coffee, or enjoy more ethically sourced coffee, better tasting coffee. It made that a little bit easier to, like, you're not, obviously prices across the board have gone up, but that gap has started to shrink a little bit, so that you're not, you look at the grocery store, there's a $22 bag of coffee. It's not as surprising as it once was, where you no longer have the very, very cheap pound of coffee on the shelf. Crazy times.
Yeah, it's right. And I think to that point is, when the C market went up, it was much harder to find 86 plus point coffees, right? Because the 84 points were getting really high pricing, and so quality across the board went down.
Yep.
But it makes sense, because if as a producer, why would I bust my hump if I'm getting $4 a pound for like an 83? I'm not gonna twist myself inside out to get like 50 cents more a pound to try to get an 86 point. Like, it didn't make any sense.
Yes.
Right. And so you're right that in a way it created this opportunity for people to go, oh, actually, wait a minute, I like this coffee, because the gap was narrowed. The C market is a tricky thing, and I think we'll always deal with it. I don't think there's a way to get rid of it. Honestly, I just don't. Too many powers that want it in place. But I think creating more awareness of what that means for a producer, and as a buyer, maybe trying to move away from it a little bit, in relationships and buying, might help some of that.
For sure. That was the hardest, thing to navigate and explain, because a lot of people seeing it from the outside were like, okay, the C market went up, that's got to be great, right? Which in some cases it is, farmers making more money for coffee, but then that quality sometimes went down. Why would farmers hire more work to get their, separate the lots or whatever it is to increase the quality of their cup, when they don't have to, and they can get a very similar price without increasing the cup quality there. So it's more nuanced than just saying, if the C market's high, then everything is great with the world.
No, it's not. It's not that simple, unfortunately.
No. All right, so I guess let's get into a little bit of I guess the like talk about the benefit of roasting coffee in house, because a lot of
Yeah.
people are in this industry. They're debating roasting coffee themselves or working with a local roaster. So from your side with the Bellwether machines, like what has been like a benefit you can tell people with being able to roast their own coffee?
I mean, as someone who I owned my own retail and roasting, a wholesale roasting company, which so it was kind of a weird place to be. I mean, Bellwether was incredibly supportive of me doing Máquina, at the same time. But I think, selfishly, the benefit is that you control how you want to roast something, how you want to present the coffee, right? If you
Yep.
like a coffee, you get to buy it. You're like, cool, I get to buy this coffee. I'm not beholden to a specific menu. I can just buy whatever I want, roast it how I want, present it how I want. So purely as an ego project, there's benefit there. I think cost wise too, for the most part, you're well, I should say this. You would save money if your roasting setup is minimal in cost, because some roasting setups are very expensive,
Yes.
and you don't get that money back for a while. Um, but if it's like a very quick plug and play, like, okay, it's not an expensive setup and you're able to choose the green coffee, you are going to save money. You just are. Again, depending on what green you're buying. And if you're buying like, $15 green, then you're not saving money
Yep.
versus a wholesaler. But I will say this is that there's benefits to both, because if you have a really good wholesale relationship with your wholesale provider, they can sort of hold your hand through things. They can answer questions for you. They can recommend certain things. So if you're not as knowledgeable, there's somebody there that can walk you through it. Bellwether is different because we're not just a provider of the machine. We're a provider of the tech support. We're also a provider of the green coffee, and we have a good bench of green coffee, or people that have been in coffee for a long time. It's not just engineers. We have a coffee department that's made of people that have been in coffee for a long time, myself being one of them. And with Bellwether, there is kind of a hand holding that happens that I know for a fact does not happen with other roaster manufacturers. It just doesn't. It's like
Yep.
most roasters are like, cool, here's the machine, here's how you do it, here's a manual, call us if there's an issue, good luck. And then you sort of
Yep.
have to go, shit, I have to like roast green coffee in this thing. How do I even do it? And if you've never had a mentor, you've never worked in coffee, it's an incredibly steep curve. So I think the benefit of roasting in house is, one, you have brand, you have total control of your brand. You can do whatever you want with the bags, with the logo. You can do whatever you want with the profiling. You can pick how you want to roast that coffee. You can pick which stories you want to tell. And then you do save some money because you're not paying for the labor that you have to pay for your wholesaler.
Yep.
So that is a positive. I think though that it's not a negative, but I suspect my theory is that we sort of, and I always joke with the CEO, I'm like, I feel like we're creating roasting monsters, because once you get into roasting, it's like it's bonkers. Like you just get so into it and you start digging. So it's rare for me to meet somebody that's gotten into roasting that hasn't totally become obsessed with it. There's not many people like that.
Yep.
There's some customers that we have that are very much like, nope, just roast. The machine is good. I'm happy. Others kind of want to dig further. So you
Yep.
sort of spark something in people when you have that kind of control. Um, I think the possibilities of that brand, of that coffee shop, just expand because they feel like they have ownership of it.
Yeah.
Um, I think eventually, I would assume that most of your best customers, maybe not most, but a lot of your best customers at some point are going to move away from buying wholesale from you and want to do their own thing.
Yeah.
It's like just a natural progression, I think.
So like I guess to that point, what are some like things that you would tell people that maybe they don't see at first? Because obviously roasting your own coffee can be daunting,
Yeah.
but also can be this thing that's very much like that I want to do that. So what are some things you would tell people that maybe they're underestimating or
Ooh, I mean, I think roasting could be a creative thing, for people, which is, I think we all should be somehow creative in our lives, or for that. Um, oh man, what things would I tell someone about roasting your own coffee? One of the things I would say is like be open to being totally obsessed. with it,
Mm.
and also open to just making mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake and be okay with that, right? Because that's how we learn.
I
I would say cup everything you roast, even the
mm.
bad stuff. Like literally taste everything that you've roasted. You have to cup it. There's no way for you to grow unless you do that.
I mean, that's the fastest way to develop your palate, right? To taste bad coffee.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Just try if you can try all kinds of things. Just
Yes.
don't read a book by anyone and stick to that, because
Yes.
there's people that do that as well. They
Mm-hmm.
they sort of become indoctrinated into this theory versus like, well, just try shit. Just why not?
Yeah.
Um, and be willing to own your mistakes and learn from it. But yeah, because I have a lot of much younger friends that are in roasting, and they'll read something and they'll be like, yeah, this is what this book said. Ah, okay, cool. But are you happy with it, or do you want more? You can
Yep.
use those things as a baseline, but man, you just gotta. I messed around with so many things in roasting.
Mm-hmm.
We did so much weird shit at Ritual in the beginning, like just weird stuff on the roaster that I'm like, I can't believe we did that and we sold that coffee. Because we didn't know, we really didn't know any better.
Yeah.
But because of that process, we learned a lot
Yes.
about roasting coffee. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's from my perspective, it is quite a big undertaking to be roasting your own
Yes.
coffee. I remember in the early days when you were talking about roasting batch after batch and messing it up. I was recounting the days of in the garage roasting coffee,
Yeah.
and we had this batch of Ethiopia that we loved, and then we roasted it again, and it tasted horrible. We're like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
How do
Did
we?
you have a notebook and stuff? Like, did you write everything down?
Yeah, we tracked the roasts, an artisan, and we were like hitting the same temperature points and everything, and we're like, why isn't this
Yeah.
the same?
Oh, yes. It's
Yeah.
elusive, right? But that's what
Yes,
makes it kind of fun,
it
because
is.
you'll never get it. You'll never get it exactly the same twice. You just can't. I mean,
Yeah.
you're roasting hundreds of different beans
Yes.
per batch. It's
Yes.
impossible. So
Yeah.
don't chase perfection. Just
Hmm.
chase progression.
And that was the biggest thing I learned is that it's not just about hitting the same data points every time. It's like the coffee, it's almost like, this just sound weird, but like alive in a way, like as
Its
you're
own living
roasting it.
organism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like not something that you can just, that's why I value like the manual control that I do have over roasting. But obviously
Yeah.
there are benefits to having, computer assisted roast programs that makes a lot of sense because there's things we can miss. But obviously there's more than just hitting the same temperatures every time.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that's sort of I'm very transparent about Bellwether, especially
Hmm.
someone I have only roasted on old manual machines,
Yep.
never automated, and I think that there's benefits to both, and I think it depends on the person.
Yeah.
If you're running a business and really you just want solid, good, clean coffee, good stories, and you are really focused on the business side of a cafe, then yeah, automation makes total sense, just like machines, right? Bellwether is not a business that's catering to people that like really finicky old ass like antique roasters. It's just not that
Yeah.
that's the reality.
Yep.
So we're very clear about that. At least I'm like, no, if you love roasting on your 55 UG 55 UG 15 Probat, you're not gonna roast on a Bellwether.
Hmm.
It might be fun to do it,
Yeah.
but that's just not your jam, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay too. you know
I guess one question I have about Bellwether because
yeah.
I've seen the machines. I haven't actually used one before, but what kind of control does it have? Because I know it has a lot of capabilities to be able to replicate a roast, right? Does it have manual capabilities as well, or is it just kind of like inputted information and then it roasts based on that
Yeah.
profile?
I mean, you could hack it to do that. I think that it's something that we've talked to the engineers about. It's
Mm-hmm.
definitely not the case right now,
Yep.
but I do think that that's going to be the natural progression. Is going to say, okay, cool. So I like that you have these. You can set all these profiles and just hit go.
Yep.
But I do think that there's going to be people, roasters that are very curious, that are going to be like, well, I just want to fuck around with the graph. I just
Yep.
want to like move it around and see what happens. So I think that that's coming. That is 100% on their list
Mm-hmm.
of requests. But no, right now it's basically you get a specific set of profiles per coffee per
Yep.
SKU. I think it's 4 different profiles. You can do more, and I
Mm-hmm.
believe that the engineering team can also if a customer has a specific question about their machine and points they want to hit, they'll just push that profile to the machine and then it's there for them to use
Nice.
it. But in terms of actually doing it manually, no.
Yeah.
I believe that's can't do that yet.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
I
that's
feel like
the big draw of
kind
those of the machines is that repeatability and consistency, something that you can
yes.
not have to worry about near as much with I remember the first machine we had was a Mill City 1 kilogram, and it just had so many controls. It was almost too many. Like, why do I need to
Yes.
control drum speed, airflow, like there's just
Airflow.
too much to control. So that was the
Yeah.
big problem with trying to get consistent roasts, is that there's
Too many
almost
options.
too much manual control. So there's definitely
I
a benefit
agree.
to that. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember one of the I'm not gonna say exactly how I said it because I don't think it'd be appropriate, but it was the founder of Stumptown, Ben Sorensen, when he came in one time and he was watching me roast on it was his machine because it was his 1919 Probot, and he basically was like, don't mess around with all the buttons all the time. First, it's going to be very hard to repeat what you just did.
Yep.
Unless you're like literally someone's next to you writing everything down, like if you did this, if you did that. He's like, so the whole goal, he's like, the entire goal of roasting coffee is that you touch it as little as possible and make it taste the best as possible with as little intervention as possible. So the way to do that is you get really good green coffee first.
Yep.
You sort of set your parameters beforehand, and then you start tasting, and you change one little thing at a time every roast.
Yes.
But don't go in there like, pulling all
yeah.
the bells and whistles and then go, oh crap, I can't replicate that. What did I do?
Yeah.
How did I get that taste?
I mean, it's the same thing as like brewing filter coffees and all that stuff at home for like home baristas and stuff. It's like if you are trying to dial in your pour over, you don't change your grind size, your temperature, your pour pattern, all of that after the last one. You change one thing, so you can actually know what it was that changed and how you're affecting things. Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, with roasting, there's like so many. Or at least with more manual machines, there's so much unknown, and there's so many variables that you cannot control that you have to be able to get out of your own way of messing with the variables.
Yes.
like the weather outside, affecting
the
your
pressure,
roasts.
humidity,
pressure,
temperature.
aromatic pressure. Yep.
Yeah, I remember like we had roast profiles for coffees when it was still warm outside, and then it gets really cold outside, and the profiles do not perform the same. And we're like, what is going on?
Oh, dude. It's so annoying. It's
Yep.
so infuriating in the moment, and then after the fact, you're like, well, then you're right. You have to set like your winter profiles. That's what I
Yeah,
had.
you really do.
All winter profiles and spring, summer
Yep.
profiles were totally different.
Yep. All right, so as we're closing here, I've got some rapid fire questions for you.
Sure.
So what is your favorite coffee origin that you're excited about right now? Whether it be coffees that you enjoy drinking or just like developments in that country.
Right now we have a really awesome. It's from I don't know if you know the company Unblended. They do. They're great. We work with them a lot now, which is awesome. We have a Andres Martinez Catura Floral. He messed with some yeasts because he used to work for a big beer company in Colombia, and he's like a master fermenter essentially.
Awesome.
So that is by far my favorite because it tastes like a very, very sturdy, highly floral Ethiopia from Guji, but it's from Colombia. It's from Nari. It's delicious. Sorry, it's from Cauca. It's so good. It does not taste. It has all the depth and like the heaviness and like the sturdiness of a Colombia, but it's got these beautiful like bergamot florals to it. It's just slow sipping coffee. It's beautiful. It's my favorite.
Oh, that sounds good.
So good.
I love floral coffees and I love Colombians, and that merger right there. That's like you just described.
It's
It's like
so
my
good.
favorite coffees.
It's so good. We'll have I think in a couple months we'll have. It's the same producer. It's a semi-washed geisha that's also incredible. It's really good.
All right, and then what's one thing you wish more cafe owners understood about green coffee? Maybe like cafe owners that aren't roasting their own coffee, that are more disconnected from that.
Yeah, I think what we talked about earlier is understanding like the impact of the C market on both quality and the financials of a wholesaler if they're buying wholesale coffee, and just I think understanding how coffee is bought and sold and how global events affect that, whether it's political events or weather events, how it's going to affect the price, of coffee in the C market.
And then if you could change one thing about how the industry prices coffee, what would it be?
Oh,
it's a rapid fire question.
It's a very, very vague question.
I know. I think I think consumer education in a way that isn't heavy-handed is important. And in terms of pricing, try to make it as affordable as you can without sacrificing your own profit margin that you need to pay your workers what they need to be paid. And that doesn't sacrifice the price of the producer. So just be really, really thoughtful about how you price your coffee. Don't think just profit. There's a whole bunch of other stuff involved in that price.
Yes. All right. And then as we close here, like where can people find the work that you do? Just at Bellwether or?
Yeah. Mostly at bellwether.com. I still have, Máquina, the Máquina Coffee's Instagram account is still, I don't really use it as much, but if you just want to really dig into like my more personal connection to coffee, you can go to Máquina Coffee Roasters on Instagram, but also with Bellwether as well. You can find what we're doing there. And we just moved over to a Shopify platform. So I think just getting more information easier is a much nicer experience now. But yeah, bellwether.com, Máquina Coffee Roasters, if you want to dig, if you're really that interested in stuff from the past, from my past and my personal experience, go there as well.
Awesome. Well,
cool.
All right.
Well, this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We're super grateful that you took the time here to talk to us. It's always fun to talk about green coffee.
Yes. Yeah. I feel like it's a thing that, maybe isn't talked about a whole ton, especially like on our channel. But it is something that I'm really passionate about. So.
Yeah, and Jack, I really hope that you get to Origin, man. I already have in my mind two people that I want to connect you with, who would probably make it much easier for you to get down there.
Yeah, well, I would definitely appreciate that.
Cool.
For sure. All right. Well, thank everyone for watching episode 38. Thanks, Gabe, for joining us today, and we will see you guys next time.